Hello and welcome to How Would You Rate Your Pain? We will be exploring life, loss, love, and the power of resilience. I am Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Thank you for listening, and I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Hello and welcome to another episode of How Would You Rate Your Pain? I'm here with my new friend, Scott Lee, who has a PhD, which rhymes, and I love that. He is an educator extraordinaire and the host of the podcast, The Thoughtful Teacher. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Tiffany.
Absolutely. We met at a podcast event.
We did.
And I think you were telling Liam and I some terrifying story about when you were staffing a haunted house and chasing people, and you won some kind of award for being like the scariest monster. And it was a hilarious story. And I don't know what the leap was from me hearing that story and then being like, do you want to come on the podcast and talk about it? I don't remember the trajectory, but yeah.
I don't either. And I don't remember which story. There were a couple of good ones from that one, but yeah. It was.
You chased people. The haunted house got a little bit dull and quiet, and I think you guys went out into the parking lot and chased people back into the house so you could scare them again.
Yeah, so what we would do when it was a slow night, like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and there's not very many people around, and of course, some of those nights I was grading papers, but this wouldn't have been that night.
Not that night.
And what we would do is the very last room in that haunted house that year, we had somebody dressed up like, is it Jason? I forget which one. The guy who chases people with the chainsaw and wears the hockey mask. Whichever movie series of movies that's from.
Don't watch any scary movies. Yeah. I'm very easily startled and scared. I'm a screamer.
No, was it? No, I was about to say, it was Scream. No, it was not that one. Anyway, I think it was the Halloween series. Anyway, and if I'm wrong, sorry about that, folks. I'm sure somebody's...
Right into the show, we will do an addendum.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
But yeah, so there would be a couple of guys wearing hockey masks with chainsaws. And of course, we took the chains off. And so people
Safety first. Yeah.
But it's dark, so people can't tell that there's no chain on the chainsaw. That's the trick.
That's the trick, guys.
That's the trick, yeah. And
how long ago was this? Is this like still legal to scare children with fake chainsaws?
Well, it wasn't always children. It was usually the adults, or it was. I mean, mostly it was like high school age kids,
Yeah.
So we. If we'd see really little ones,
you'd tone it down.
Yeah,
we'd
do something different. Yeah,
okay, good.
Sort of. But when it was slow and you'd take in a group, because you a lot of times you had a vignette in each room, and so you'd only take 5 or 6 at a time. And if there was a lag, I could sneak out the back room into the parking lot in my costume.
So terrifying.
Yeah, and that year, I think I was the monster from Dr. Moreau, so it's a werewolf.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I'd get, and one of the other guys is a zombie, and we'd hide behind cars. And so the guys would be chasing people out of the haunted house with their chainsaws, and they'd be running towards cars, and we'd jump up behind cars and freak people out. Yeah, that was so much fun.
Oh, my goodness.
It was so much fun.
So that was the very first conversation we ever had. And this conversation, for listener purposes, will hopefully be just slightly different. But there was something about it.
Yeah, I was a second-year teacher, and I couldn't scare the kids legally. So this was a good way to do it.
Yeah. Get it, just creative talents. Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny. Well, I think that seriously, the reason, I wanted to have you on is because, I'm a big fan of teachers. I love supporting teachers. I have great teachers that I've had in my own life. And I think that it's, one of those career paths that, a lot of people choose for a really specific reason. But it does require a lot of persistence and resilience, especially in the face of all the challenges education faces now?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is so much more difficult. And I started teaching, would have been, I guess, the 1990-91 school year.
Okay.
And the changes, and I'm not a classroom-based teacher now, but the difference, but I still work with teachers a lot. That's still what I do. And the amount of issues and the resilience that you need, it was hard then, and for a lot of people, it's even harder now.
Yeah.
We did not have so many of the mental health problems that kids have, and and the research bears it out. I mean, the rates of adolescent depression, they've been, and youth risk behavioral surveys that they've been doing for 50, 60, 80 years now, clearly show that what teachers are having to face in the classroom now is a lot harder, and so it takes it takes a lot of resilience on the part of teachers, and can be a difficult, still rewarding profession. I'm always encouraging people to you need to be a teacher. And my niece is a third-year teacher now. So
passing the torch along. I love that. So when did you know that you wanted to be a teacher?
Oh gosh, I really think that, and it was a total accident. Somebody at the church I was going to worked at our local YMCA, and he said, you should be a day camp counselor at our YMCA. And one of the things that I did was teach swimming.
Okay.
And I still remember, that first kid first student that passed her swimming test, and there was just nothing like it.
Yeah.
And I didn't say right then, I think I've got to do it. I've got to be a teacher. I've got to do this.
Planted the seed.
But yeah, I think that's where it started.
I love that. Yeah, to see those kind of aha moments and that sense of accomplishment that they could have. So what was it like for you becoming a teacher and kind of getting into the field?
So my plan, I went to the University of Tennessee, and at Tennessee, there's no undergraduate college of education. So it's a little bit different. So I got a bachelor's degree in history, and then you work for an entire year as an intern within a school, as opposed to a regular college semester, which is shorter than a
so it's like
K-12.
You're 22,
yeah,
and
I'm 22, and yes,
drop you in.
Almost dropped me in. No, I did have support, but but yeah, I mean,
that's a lot.
From about the second week on, I was teaching world history and U.S. government.
Wow. So high school?
In high school, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And so I thought, this is great. And one of the easiest classes I ever had to teach, as far as a group of students, that were just, you get a grouping like this 2-3 times in a career, as it turns out. And I got mine the first time, and they spoiled me. And
you're like, this is what teaching is like.
Yeah, I'm like, this is easy. And found out that why a lot of people talked about more of the challenges. But nonetheless, just loved that, and started teaching. And it took off from there. So, and thought I would be a history teacher and a high school basketball coach my entire career, 30 years, and retire. And having a plan. If you very dangerous things plans are.
Put them in pencil.
The school district that I got my first full-time job in, and at the time I was doing this haunted house.
Yes, the infamous haunted house.
The haunted house. Yeah. What was going on at work in parallel, the school district the city voted to close its school district.
Oh, wow.
And so all of us who had not gotten tenure, it wasn't just me, there were probably a dozen of us that all lost our jobs because the county paid more and the city had smaller class sizes. And so to equalize the pay scale, they did two things. Those of us they didn't have to keep, we all lost our jobs. And they did a really good incentive to get a lot of people to retire. And so I ended up teaching in a residential treatment program in a mental health hospital after that.
Wow.
That's how...
You're fine. Yeah.
That's how I ended up starting to understand about therapy and working side by side with therapists as a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how was it trying to like deliver learning, in that environment? And because, they're children, you don't want their whole educational world to stop, but obviously they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And under different kinds of stress and pressure than the average kid.
And, it's hard to describe because on the one hand, teaching in residential programs in some ways, from a teacher standpoint, is great because you've got such small classes.
Okay, so you really know the kids.
So yeah, you
really
get to know the kids, and 8-10 kids. And in my case, it was a boys group, and 8th through 12th grade. And so the trick is then, okay, what do I do to with an 8th grader and a 12th grader in the same class?
Yeah.
But at the same time, because of that smaller class size and because the focus there really was on, it's not about the curriculum and how you teach is important, but what really is important is how you motivate the kids, developing the relationship with kids. Yeah. And it totally opened a new understanding to teaching and how teaching should be done. And, and that's the kind of work I still do now with teachers is instead of focusing on, thinking about what the curriculum is and what your standards are first, how are you developing a relationship that helps motivate the student to do what they need to do?
Yeah. What have you seen, like, as far as the impact, whether in the literature or just anecdotally in real life, the difference between those two approaches of just like, because I think Tennessee especially, it's so difficult. You have so many benchmarks and like so many tests, that teachers are held responsible for their students being able to pass, no matter what else is going on in the world, their own families, the children's neighborhoods, whatever. I feel like those are such competing pressures. But that's exactly
where the problem is. There's this false narrative, first off, that kids learn because you either punish or reward.
Yeah.
And no kid learned better because they were suspended from school.
Right. They're too smart for that.
Yeah. Unless you've got every now and again, there's the one kid who they've got such a good relationship with their parents that they're embarrassed because they got suspended from school that it never happens again.
But it's still not the school suspension.
But it's back to relationship. Right. It's about a relationship with somebody else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the real lie or the incorrect narrative that has been enculturated in schools. And it's a problem that too many parents believe that too.
It's a very primitive way of nurturing learning.
And the research backs it up. I mean, there's no credible study that has ever demonstrated that like corporal punishment works,
right?
Especially in a school. And there's a reason why the U.S. Army and Navy both banned the practice before the Civil War. But legally it's still okay, in many states, Tennessee included.
Yeah. Wow.
The reason it doesn't work is the real way people are motivated. We were talking, and the research bears it out. We were talking earlier. It's about the ecological systems around the school, or around the kid, not around around the school,
well,
within the school,
part of it. Yeah,
within the school. But the people within the school. You need to have. What is it? Search Institute says 5 quality mentors that every child and adolescent needs at any given time while they're growing up, to develop those assets that are going to actually lead to inner discipline and motivation. I started to realize that when I was teaching in the residential program, and that was part of the basis of it at the time. And still now to this day, even though I'm not in a classroom, I'm working with teachers on helping develop that understanding and develop the strategies and interventions within teachers and within school communities to help focus on that.
What's that work like? I mean, it's so difficult to move anything when you're dealing with institutions, and like the educational system is just so big and layered. There's just so much. Not fight against, but so much to everything's so interconnected. How do you change,
Yeah. And it's, I guess you could look at the organizational psychology. You've got to have a willingness for top-down change, but you also have to have bottom-up change. Bottom-up change happening at once. And so usually what I try and do is work with one school faculty at a time when I can. I'm not one of these. No, I will. If anybody's out there, yes, I will come and do a one-day workshop with your faculty, and it won't be very effective because, in the business we call it drive-by in service.
You're right.
But a lot of times that's kind of how it happens because so much of the culture, especially now, is focused on how many kids are passing tests, that while there is, certainly there's a need to see where kids are.
Some kind of assessment.
It's important. But as children and adolescents continue to have more and more health issues and more mental health issues and less services, that continues to become a problem. I literally came from a meeting with a school director, an alternative school director here locally, we got sidetracked in our discussion just talking about the problems of a lack of mental health services available to kids. And more kids need them. And more kids need that mentoring relationship, need that connection, and at this point now also need that from time to time that formal outpatient therapy, and that was the next part of our original conversation, I believe, before we came here, and that's really one of the the driving force behind what I'm doing. I'm not trying to teach teachers how to be therapists, but what I am trying to do is teach them how to use those quality interventions that develop a positive relationship
so
with their
kids
students.
Can learn.
Yeah, so that the kids can learn, because yes, they want to.
Absolutely.
Kids are naturally curious.
Yeah,
and they're naturally, instinctually wanting to bond with with good mentoring adults.
It reminds me kind of like when we were, I think in our country's history, and it's global too, but like realizing that hungry children couldn't learn. If their little tummies are empty and they're hungry, you can't sit them down and want them to learn how to diagram a sentence. Like, you have to help them, with that thing. And now, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it's from one of the, annual happiness reports that came out. And so what we know about happiness is it's like a U, right? Like, children are really happy, and then, adolescence and early adulthood, you kind of see the dip. You have kids, you don't sleep, whatever. And then you see kind of an upswing as you get to empty nesters. And the research is showing that, children in America, we lost one leg of our U. That their happiness isn't like feeling like happy all the time, but it's like that positive quality of life,
fulfillment,
satisfaction, and we're losing that in our children, our most precious, resource in our country, in the world, really. And just makes me think, they can't learn when they're so deeply unhappy or, depressed or anxious. You know?
And we talk, and a lot of times I talk with teachers, and also have these conversations at home. My wife is a retired school psychologist, so
it's all around you.
Yeah, I know. Literally, my wife and I met in a what's called an IEP meeting, which is an individual education plan meeting for.
That's a really interesting meet cute. Yeah. I haven't seen that one on Hallmark yet, but it should be. Like, you should pitch it. I think they'd grab it.
Oh yeah, it was. And wasn't a love at first sight thing, but we. Yeah. Anyway, that's a different story. But one of the things that we talk about at home a lot is, and she only recently retired, that she would oftentimes point to as, well, part of the reason why this kid is not doing well at school is there's nothing joyful happening in school for this kid. Yeah. And then if there's nothing joyful happening for this kid after school, well, what's going to happen? I mean, and it does. It goes back to the research. There's a researcher, Nicholas Hobbs, and he said this in the 60s, based on research, something about, every kid needs to experience joy every day. Now, that was not a platitude. That was a comment. It was an evidence-based comment. And yet, so much of our culture is not focused on joy, as opposed, joy and learning. Joy and learning oftentimes involves hard work too. So it, and that's what I think about when I think about happiness. Students get a great deal of satisfaction when they do something that's novel, that was hard, and that at the end they saw meaning in why they did it. And so much of, and if the goal is to take a bubble test, it's hard to know. There's not going to be any joy in that. Not that you never do that, but that's not a reward. That's not a reward, and it's not, and it's not a reward for the teacher either. But that meeting I was at before I came here, we were talking about that so much of the issues that we're dealing with in schools, that the problems are, kids, not enough kids are as well as they need to be, and there's not enough support for the ones that are for the kids that are not well. And as a teacher, you see it, and you can do what you can, but you also, sometimes, you need to have that a lot of those other people with you, a therapist, somebody to help make sure that, you talk about hunger. I mean, we still are facing problems with hunger.
Absolutely.
In schools. I mean, 20% of our kids at any given time are food insecure.
And then the housing insecurity. It's so hard for families to be housed in America right now. And so there's all those pressures. So, what would you say, what would you think people need to know about, like, the pressures of being a teacher, because you see day after day all these things and you feel like a drop in the bucket, you know, of all the needs that they have, whether it's like the social needs that they have, or those like tangible needs, like psychological needs, so much.
Yeah, it is so hard. And, you know, there's a reason why, what is it? Yeah. And this has not changed in 35 years, at least. About half of all teachers leave the field within the first 5 years.
I've seen it in my clients. I mean, especially post-COVID, there's just like, you know, what do they call it? The great resignation.
Yeah.
Man, it hit education so hard.
Yeah. Let's see. How many teachers do I know? I mean, I'm running out of fingers and toes counting teachers that I know just who are in you know, insurance and financial services sales, things like that. You know, it is a lot of people are leaving, and that was before COVID, because the stress is so hard. And it's not that the stress itself is unbearable. It's like you say, it's that I don't feel like I can make a change. These are the things that I need to do, or that I believe need to be changed to make it better for my students.
Yeah.
And if your classroom can be a place of joy, then okay, maybe I can't. You know, maybe it is beyond me if I'm a teacher that, you know, 5 or 6 kids out of my classroom of 30 are going to maybe only have 1 or 2 meals over the weekend, or don't have a permanent place to live, or, you know, have healthcare needs that are well beyond what we can provide at school. But if I can make this the place that is joyful, then I'm doing my job. And I feel like early in my career, it was much easier to have that feeling and to have that understanding. And I worry now that I just hear a lot more teachers speaking a lot more negatively about, you know, I'm having too much trouble making my classroom, or collectively even better, making our school sort of an island of safety and joy. Not every day.
Right.
But the one place where, you know, where the kids do know that they're going to be safe, and the one place where they're going to feel joy sometimes. You know, even if we can't control everything that's out there, and it has become harder. It really has. You know, how do you rate your pain?
I mean, I can't. Yeah, as a teacher, it probably is such a roller coaster, because the pain and the pleasure, there's, you know, it's a Venn diagram. Like, they're not mutually exclusive. You know. But it's such an important job, I think. And you know, one thing that I've heard over and over from my adult clients is, you know, some of them have just like these extraordinary, like, you know, could be like a TV series type childhoods that are just extraordinarily difficult. And then you see them and they come in and they're successful, and maybe they need help with something, or maybe they're ready to deal with what happened earlier, but like they make it. And without fail, there's always like that adult somewhere in there, you know, even if they didn't have that 5, they had a 1 in 3rd grade, and she told them, you know, they could really do this well, or just liked their work, or complimented them, or listened to them, or something. And sometimes it's just that little piece of hope. You know, one of the things that I really enjoy, you know, when I tell people what I do, and somebody who's not in the education business, you know, inevitably, oh gosh,
let me tell you about this teacher. And so I know that it's, one of the stories I tell teachers is something that happened to me. I had a student, and this was in residential treatment, and the last time I saw him was, or the next to the last time I saw him, was when he was being arrested and taken away.
Oh no! Okay.
From
the school?
from the residential program, and there were a lot of mistakes that were made. It certainly was not on him, but at the same time, it was it was a situation where he had attacked several staff members, and it was a bad situation. He was taken away by the police, so fast forward 5 years, and I'm in between a couple of meetings, and I stop in a coffee shop, and I was seeing a wave from behind the counter or in the back, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, Mike." Mike's not his real name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh no." Okay. He couldn't have poisoned anything right here, knowing I came in.
Yeah.
I was nervous. I was like, this kid. It would not surprise me. I mean, even though it wasn't directed at me, he should be angry at a lot of people involved in that program because of what happened to him.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm the closest thing he's got. And he clocked out and took a break and just wanted to come sit and talk to me. And it was like, you never know.
Yeah.
The last experience that he had with me is not what
you remember,
what developed his relationship, or what our relationship was based on. Now, for me, I've taught thousands of kids over the years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes your memory is not a good one because it's like that. It's very
you had to do the hard thing.
You had to do a hard thing. And that's not always what they remember about us. Matter of fact, he may not even remember that, or may not remember. If he does, he may not remember that I was one of the people that was there at that time or that day.
But he remembers how you made him feel.
He remembered some good things, and that's part of the joy of being a teacher. You never know which kid. Most of the time we never know which of the kids are telling that story about us, because a lot of times either it was really good or really bad what we remember about a kid, and those little times in between, if we're doing it right, every interaction matters. It is the trickle down, the stream coming down the waterfall. Every single interaction we have is one drop or one bit of water.
And I think for children who are having a really rough time, they're just so, like, their little minds are so eager to find any bit of kindness or any bit of connection. I was watching this, it must have been like 7 years ago. The Harvard Children's Institute, came out with this little video, and they were talking about resilience. So why is it that some, children who have all this adversity and risk factors and so little protective factors, many of them have difficult outcomes, but what's going on with the few that have like a good outcome, even though there's no reason statistically they should?
Right.
And this, but what they found was that what moved the fulcrum on the teeter-totter was one caring adult that they could count on, in their life at some point, that, they just kept seeing this pattern over and over again. And so I think that's, one thing I've kind of always tucked in my pocket, thinking about life is just like, wow, the power of one, the power of like one person, maybe just for one grade, in one class, seeing you as a person, calling out your goodness, making you feel that you can do things, and some of my teachers that I cherish the most, they taught classes I didn't want to take. So I was originally a business major. So I went to the University of New Hampshire. I can't remember his name, but I can see him in my mind. He had a long ponytail down his back, and he taught finite math. And I wanted to take finite math because I didn't want to take calculus.
Right.
Because I was like, calculus sounds hard. People, I don't want to take that.
Right. You see the movie Stand and Deliver.
Yeah.
It is hard.
It's
It
hard.
can be.
Yeah. So I don't want to do that. So I took finite math. Joke's on me. I transferred schools and then had to take calculus anyway. So there's that. But, I never really thought about math in the way they asked us to in that class. And he did like a flipped classroom where, he'd give us the problems, let us like sweat it out and like cry, and then teach us how to do the problems or whatever. So I never got bad grades in my life. And then I took his class and I was getting like C's on tests, which I don't get C's or D's on tests. And so I worked really hard, and he was so gentle and so like empowering, but he definitely had expectations. But he was very like kind and kind of fiercely gentle. It was like this like relentless, steamroller pushing you forward in this class. And so I started to do better and better. And he would write on my tests, he would say, I like the way you thought about this problem. Or he'd circle my grade and be like, so much better than last test. Like, look at you, And I still kept, I think that my husband scanned them because he doesn't keep paper, but I've kept all the tests. It's been decades. I've kept all the tests from that class of him being like, I'm proud of you. Like, look at what you did in this class. Like, you're amazing. So I actually contacted him. It was before I started my PhD. And I said, yeah, you probably don't remember me, but I was in your math class, and this time, and I just told him like what it meant to me, and that I'd kept all those things, and I said, I had a really difficult relationship with my father during the semester that I took your class, and you definitely weren't a father figure, but the words of encouragement that you had for me meant the world to me. He said he remembered me, which if you're watching, I don't believe you, but I love that like you would lie to me and give me that gift. But he might have actually, because I think I used to have hair like down on my knees. And then in that class, I cut my hair, which of course his hair was very important to him. So maybe he didn't remember me, but anyways, but he said, I actually had a really difficult relationship, with my dad. And he said, no award I've won in math and no accomplishment I've had has ever been enough to get what I, wanted from him. And he said, I'm just sitting here crying, reading. And he's this gigantic man, just sitting here crying, reading your email because it means so much to me to have been able to be that for you even for one semester. Yeah. And that was like eons ago for a degree I don't even like care about. You know what I mean? Like in a class I didn't want to take.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and really, that's really what everybody should experience in a learning environment. It's not necessarily about getting a great grade.
Right.
But it is about, what that joy of learning and and it's got to be hard. And a lot of times, I taught history for years. Most of the kids don't like my class.
Right. Yeah.
But every now and again, I did hear that they liked me, whether they liked the class or not.
I know. When you're that age, you're like, world history, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, what does it matter? It's already done. Yeah. Old news.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, they also would say the same thing about math and English. And
I use math. I literally used math this morning.
Yeah, I know. I use math too. And I sometimes out there.
I don't use finite math, but don't tell my professor.
Yeah, don't tell him that.
Yeah.
But that, and so many teachers want to do that more, and are in a culture, a school culture that doesn't reward that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to quantify. And then there's so many pressures competing with the ability to have that one-on-one connection.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about what you're doing through the Thoughtful Teachers. You have 60 episodes, which to a baby podcaster like me, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's like so far away.
Oh, wow. So the podcast itself is for teachers primarily, and anybody can listen, of course, but it is primarily for teachers just to share ideas. So sometimes it's about policy, sometimes it's about advocacy. Every now and again, I'll do one where I'm just recording, hey, here's my experience with working with kids in foster care, and here's why we need more of an emphasis on that, just as an example. So different topics that would be helpful to them to think exactly.
about.
But the most recent episodes, as we're recording, got one coming out tomorrow on something called the Sloyd experience, which is, nobody knows.
Listen. Okay.
Nobody knows about what
tomorrow.
Sloyd is.
So today is April 15th. Ooh, it's tax day.
Yeah,
I should know what day it is.
The 16th.
This podcast will come out past. So scroll back, guys.
So go back to April.
To April 16th and check out the Sloyd.
The Sloyd experience. What they do is they teach kids about resilience and perseverance through traditional woodworking. And this couple, and their executive director is the only person who's a guest, talks about how they work with kids and how they teach kids practical skills. Sloyd itself is a Danish word, I guess, and it means handiwork, and it's still a class that is taught in Denmark and Sweden.
Happy countries.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. All teach Sloyd, all the happiest countries in the world. And don't, not an accident. And there it is an ungraded class. And the idea is, okay, you create, and there's a set of models. Every new model adds a different tool and adds a different skill.
Oh, how fun.
And you work your way through it self-paced. And so they teach Sloyd in elementary schools in Colorado.
Oh, that's very cool.
And then the episode before that, I'm not going to go back all 60 episodes.
And then 39 was really a favorite.
But just so you can get kind of a little bit the different kinds of things that we do. It's a teacher who does something called Symbiotic Schoolyard. Meets middle school science standards in every state. And teachers take this curriculum to help them develop active learning with their students. So they plant native plants in their on their schoolyards. And the episode before that, I'm only going to go back 4, just so you can, so everybody can get
We're on
see,
number 3.
Yeah, so everybody can see kind of how the different kinds of things that we do.
Yeah,
is the authors of a book called the Educator's Advocate Handbook for working with transgender and non-binary youth.
Love it.
And so, the authors, both of whom have been former teachers, talked about their book and how to advocate for, trans and non-binary kids specifically. We're pretty sure it's the first book written for teachers about that.
Yeah. Groundbreaking.
And so I was excited to have them. And then the episode before that, the first one of the season, was a English teacher in California who talked about how she teaches her kids how to use generative AI the correct way. So
very good.
So she talked about all the different ways that she can catch kids cheating if they're using something like ChatGPT or whatever.
Please don't use ChatGPT for your college papers. We can tell.
Yes.
They end up real weird.
Yeah. And she talked about that and how she catches that.
Yeah.
But she also talked about how she actually uses that. So she's like, I've got a lot of kids that don't really know how to plan their writing task for the next 2 weeks. So she's like, kids, why don't you go use if I want ChatGPT to give me a writing plan and put in there, this paper is due Friday. What do I need to do?
Give me a list. I love that.
And so not only how to catch kids cheating using ChatGPT, but also how to teach them how to use it correctly. So there's a wide variety of episodes out there.
Such a variety of like topics and everything too. And I think it's a lovely way to kind of make like a teacher's break room where the rest of us can kind of like, look in the door, but that it's just like that space for teachers, by teachers, with teachers, talking about the cool stuff they do.
Yeah.
I think that's really wonderful. Yeah. So for the listeners, like, how can the rest of us support our teachers? Because, I teach a little bit adjunct as a professor, but that's really different than teaching in K through 12 or even teaching full time, somewhere in classroom.
So one of the things is that, and it's so funny because there's a lot of policy and legislation that's not very good going around in a lot of states.
That really affects education.
That really affects education.
Yeah.
And I hear people talking about how great it is to outlaw teaching critical race theory, and this is just an example, critical race theory in schools, and they're not. They never were. There are things that we deal with structural racism in history class, yes. Sure. But what I've found is that so many people that think that this kind of legislation is a good thing, when they talk with their teachers of their kids, that's not what they're talking about.
Right. And that happens a lot with like different topics or different things. Everybody gets very inflamed and hysterical about something, and you're like, but is that actually like is it happening? Is it the biggest thing that they need help with?
And the funny thing is, I run into so many parents who, when I ask questions in a different way, they don't care about testing. They don't want their kids being retained at the end of third grade. Right. They want teachers who are doing the kinds of things that we're talking about today. They want the teachers who are encouraging and making their kids work hard.
They want their kids to learn how to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
They want they want their kids to come home having something exciting to tell them about.
Yeah.
And at the same time, no matter what people are saying. And so, the most important thing is, talk to teachers. When you talk to teachers, start off by thanking them for their service. It's a different kind of service from the military.
Absolutely.
But they're doing a service for your kids and for all of our kids.
Well, even people who don't have kids, like those are our doctors and lawyers and electricians and house builders.
Yeah,
yes.
You need no matter what happens, we need well-educated people.
Absolutely.
And you're exactly right. Well-educated is not strictly people like us with terminal terminal degrees. It is
everybody.
And there are so many high-paying jobs also. And we, for electricians and plumbers and so many of
Listen,
the trades.
HVAC people in the South, that is a precious job.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we need to take care of them.
And so everybody wants that. And so, talk to the teachers about how do you find joy in a classroom, and how can we extend that joy to what we're doing at home? How can I make learning at fun home for my kids?
There's a lot of people crying over homework every night.
And on our part, as educators, we don't always need to be so defensive and regimented. I'm generally not a fan of homework. I'm like, why are you doing homework? I get it in high school.
But
it's
even
impossible.
then, it just seems kind of excessive.
But only if you're only giving homework because
you think they should
give
have
homework.
It.
Kids will work very hard on that paper or their project that they're motivated to do, and parents will have to make them go to bed rather than doing their work if it's meaningful. And so, those kinds of conversations.
So how can we support the work that you're doing in the classroom?
Happening a lot more,
and assuming that they're doing good work and that they want to do that.
Because most teachers don't like just like many of the very loud parents right now. Most of the teachers don't want that type of environment in schools either.
They want it to be like a joyful place of learning.
Exactly. And so, if everybody approaches it from that place and has those conversations and has more of them, I think that would be one of the best things that we could do.
I love that. That's so good. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me today, Scott. I really
thank you so much,
appreciate it.
Tiffany. I've enjoyed it. This has been wonderful.
How can everybody find you?
The easiest place is www.thoughtfulteacherpodcast.com or encourseeducationsolutions.net. That's a .net. encourseeducationsolutions.net. It tricks me up all the time too, but mainly the podcast website. You can get a hold of me there. You can follow me on Instagram at Dr. R. Scott Lee. Either place, and I do reply to messages through Instagram and through the website. So,
and check out now you have a preview. The little cliffhangers on the first 4 going back. But stay tuned. I'm going to have to watch for the Sloyd one. I'm really interested in that.
It's a fun one.
I mean, I think that I think a lot of adults need to play too.
Absolutely.
And so, if we think if we feel like we need to play, children definitely need to play.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for being here. This was so fun. And I will have to check in with you you said there were so many haunted house stories, so that'll be for a different day. I feel like that might be a series we do.
Oh gosh, we could do a how to rate your pain.
How to rate your pain. Every time Dr. Scott scared me about his stories. Well, thank you all for being here too on another episode, and we encourage you to follow us on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, Instagram. You can find us, and in the meantime, be gentle with yourselves, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to How Would You Rate Your Pain? Please subscribe on your favorite listening platform so you never miss an episode. And if this show made you think of someone, please share it with them to help us grow. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Bartell. You can find me on Instagram at the_happy_therapist_. This show is not intended as medical advice and should not take the place of therapy or other mental health services. Please consult with your doctor or mental health provider about your own health. You deserve all the support. How Would You Rate Your Pain is co-produced by Wavelength Studios and Chattanooga Podcast Studios and is part of the Podnooga Network. Graphic design provided by Josh Wilhelm at JW Creates and music by Michael Crosa. I'm Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time right here on How Would You Rate Your Pain?